Welcome to CCTV, Town Meeting TV. I am here, honored to be joined by Sonja, Schuyler from the League of Women Voters. You're one of the board of directors.
Yes, that's right.
Welcome. And we've worked with you over the years on a lot of different projects. How did you, just tell us a little bit about you and how did you come to be involved in the League of Women Voters? What calls you to this work?
Actually, I became involved when I was living in Richmond, and there was some questions about the dump. And the Home Dem group, which I wasn't a member of, but they were studying the dump and thought it was really bad. And one of the women I knew that was in that group said, well, we need the League of Women Voters. And that's how I got involved. She was one of my friends and she got me involved.
Cool. And what was the, that is always fascinating to me, people's entry into what we think of as political activity, and the League is nonpartisan political activity, but how did the League assist in that work? What was the impact of being
It was
involved?
just real, being, going to talk with the select board.
Yeah.
And then becoming, and that I had studied, I had a master's degree in ecology, so I was interested in the environment to begin with, and so it was an opportunity to use some of my knowledge and learn a lot more.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the history of the League. When was it formed and why is it, what is its purpose and mission?
It was formed when women got the vote. In fact, it was organized on February 14th, before it was the amendment was finally ratified, but it was, at that point, it was pretty certain. And so that's when the League was formed, 1920. And
it's a nonpartisan organization, right? So it's neither, but it has political principles. And I don't know if Kevin, if you want to bring up the website, there's a little drop-down menu there about the League, where we see home and then we go to about. And this tells us a little bit about the nonpartisan policy, but also the priorities. Maybe go down to positions and values. I think those positions and values are interesting to have, especially in a time when values and positions become so politicized. So maybe just share with us a little bit about how folks approach this.
Okay, so the League really wants to involve people in government, and the members study different issues, and then using the consensus process, they arrive at the positions. And if you look at the website, there are positions at the website. Sometimes they're perceived to be partisan, but they really aren't. Sometimes they'd be more in line with one party or the other, but the purpose is good government, regardless, and that transcends party.
Yeah.
So,
can you give us an example of that on like an issue that the League, a position that the League has taken and how they came to consensus on that?
Well, let's see, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think one that would be a good example that might surprise people.
I think there's some work there on, and maybe if we just bring that back up, Kevin, and look at those positions, we could walk through them a little bit. Ranked choice voting,
Yeah, that's
positions
one.
on education. That was not the most recent education position in Vermont, but this was on school choice, environment and energy, healthcare.
Yeah, some of these are national positions, and when
Yeah.
there's a national study, then each of the members, you get consensus questions, and they can have meetings. Sometimes people just respond with internet and stuff.
Yeah.
They respond, and then they arrive at a position, or maybe they do a study and don't arrive at a position because there isn't a consensus.
I think it's so interesting and important when we have organizations that are convening people and bringing them together outside of sort of the way that local democracy works in like a municipal level or state level or certainly the national level, especially when we're seeing such wildly shifting landscapes on the federal level, for there to be places like this where people can come together and have conversations about issues that are important to them.
Yeah, and the League really strongly believes that people should have a choice and that all opinions should be out for voters to consider, you know, whether or not there would be positions, you know, whether or not we would have a position in support of that. And that's the rationale when we do the candidate forums. It's so people can hear what the candidates have to say and form their own opinion as to whom they would support.
Yeah. One of the things, as one might imagine, that the League of Women Voters is involved in is Vermont voter registration. And you have put together this pamphlet, Voting in Vermont, which outlines, and I can hold that up so folks can see, Voting in Vermont, and it outlines sort of the procedures, how to register to vote, etc. And you have published this in multiple languages as well.
Yes, we have.
And you are doing new citizen voter registration at naturalization hearings. Tell us what that has, what that looks like, and how has that been proceeding?
We go to all of the judicial naturalization ceremonies, which are run by the court system, the federal court system. And every new citizen receives a copy of the Voting in Vermont brochure, because in Vermont, you know, you can register the day of the election. So, and then people who wish to register at that time, after the ceremony is over, we help them register either on paper or they can register from their phones using.
Yeah, so you can register to
QR
vote. You can register when you go to get your driver's license, right? You can register to vote from your phone at the Secretary of State's voter registration site. And I don't know if a QR code is going to work on television, but that's an interesting experience. If you're watching from home, you could try to scan this and see how that works. And then you can also go to the Secretary of State My Voter page to see if perhaps you've already been registered to vote and what the status is of your registration.
Right, and you can change, you know, if you've moved, you can change your address that way, and then your voter record will go to the checklist of the town you've moved to, if it's a different town than the town you were living in before.
Yeah, there's a lot of efforts to make in Vermont, and I think from both NGOs, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits. Is the League a nonprofit organization?
Definitely a nonprofit. The League of Women Voters of Vermont is a 501c4, which means it's considered a political nonprofit because, I mean, it's interested in. We also have a 501c3 arm, which is the League of Women Voters Education Fund, which just funds educational efforts and gives out scholarships. Last year we gave out 4.
And what are those scholarships for?
They're for seniors in high school. They can apply. They provide 2 essays, and then it's for them to use for their college ones. Or it wouldn't have to be college. I mean, a student, if they want going into some other higher education, could also apply.
Interesting. Those would be great folks for us to hear from and meet.
Oh, you should, because the essays that they write, they're related to voting and citizenship, and they are wonderful. And it would be good for you. It would be very nice to interview some of the students who have written these essays.
Yeah. So for folks who don't really understand the naturalization process, that's when somebody who's not a citizen of the U.S. becomes a citizen of the U.S. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience attending those and what goes into that naturalization process?
A lot goes into it. They have to apply, and their background information is checked. They have to pass a citizenship test, and actually not as part of the League of Women Voters, but I was involved with have been involved with helping immigrants prepare for that test, and it's hard.
I know, I don't think I could pass it. I've looked
It's
at it,
hard. I
it's
mean,
hard.
how many people could sit around and answer questions about the Federalist Papers and
Yeah.
things like that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a
Yeah.
difficult thing. So by the time they get to naturalization, they've passed all the background checks. They are here legally. They have, they don't have any pending anything. They've mastered this naturalization test. There is a fee, although I believe if your income is below a certain level, it can be waived. But the fees, I don't know what they are now. So by the time the people get to the naturalization ceremony, they've done all of those things. And so the final thing is for the naturalization. As part of that, they swear or affirm their allegiance to the Constitution, not to any particular office, but to the Constitution, just as other federal candidates and people in the military and government employees, you all have to.
Swear your allegiance to this Constitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're recognized individually, and they come forward and they get their naturalization papers. The league gives them their voting in Vermont. Usually representatives from the 2 senators and the representative are there to welcome the new citizens. Oftentimes the Secretary of State is there or someone from her office, and the DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution, are there, and they give the new citizens a little American flag and a pin with American flags.
Has there been an impact on this naturalization process from federal actions?
Yes. We have never, in Vermont League, we've always registered people at what's considered judicial naturalization ceremonies, and that's continuing on. Some leagues have registered at what they call administrative naturalization ceremonies, which are held in the USCIS office. Here in Vermont, they're usually pretty small. I mean, I went to a friend's once, and it was her and one other person. They do give out the Voting in Vermont brochure, and if, this is for a long time, that they've also gotten that from the league for instances when the people aren't going to be at the naturalization ceremony. But that has been, the ability of the leagues to do that has been stopped. And we first learned about that before it was in the news from members of the Portland, Oregon League contacted us and said, we've been told we can't do this. Have you heard anything?
You can't go and help people register to vote or hand out information about voting.
At these administrative ones.
Yeah.
And so we said, oh, no, I don't think so. So I immediately contacted Sonja DeWolf at USCIS, who have worked with for years, and Cheryl LeClaire, who is with the federal courts. And I don't know, this was before it had actually come on the news. But we then heard back from Shara, said, no, the judicial ones, the courts decide who can participate, and definitely. At the point when all of this was happening, we were preparing for the 9/11 ceremony, which is held at the State House and is always a big event. And the league does a reception there for the new citizens. So, we were thinking, wait a minute, we're busy getting volunteers for this event. But it went on, and usually there's a lot of people at that one. There were 50 this year, 50 new citizens. So it was still kind of surprising. I don't understand why. It just was very puzzling.
Why the league's
because certainly
involvement
here
is
in Vermont, we've always had wonderful relationships with the USCIS, and during COVID, you know, we supplied them a lot of voting in Vermont because they weren't having any public ceremonies.
Yeah. So for folks that want to know more or want to get involved, who is the league in Vermont? Where do you meet? When do you meet? What are you looking for from folks who want to get involved?
We have a convention every 2 years. We don't have big meetings so much. It's more working groups, and we have a number of working groups that people, if they're interested in. We register new citizens. We have a group that registers high school students because, you know, when they get their driver's license, they're not old enough to vote. So they do need to register.
Yeah.
And we register inmates in the prisons because Vermont is one of the 2 states that allows inmates to vote. Yeah. We have a health care study group. And then periodically, depending on if certain issues come along, studies, you know, they would form a committee that would study it. The league sponsors a series of lectures every year with the Kellogg Hubbard Library, and so there's a group that plans those. The best thing for them to do would be to go to the website and join, of course.
Yeah.
And then you can get an idea of some of the different things that are.
The other activities that are going on that you might be involved in. Mm-hmm. Certainly there's the election forums, you mentioned that.
Yes, actually there will be a committee next year, because that's the election year, to plan the various candidate forums and other activities around the election.
Yeah, and you do those for both the town meeting day elections, or are you focused mainly
we focus mainly on the general elections. Some years we've done forums during the primaries because it's become clear that that's where the real races are, you know, where people really need to try to determine who they would vote for. And we did an interesting one around town meeting in Brattleboro. They have representative town meetings, and they approached the league about how could they inform people about all the people who are running to be the representative ones. And the league has a program that they use called Vote 411. And so Jonna Ferguson, our tech expert, she usually works on that for the general election, and she said, well, we probably could adapt that to this. And so in the matter of be a month and a half really before town meeting, put it together. The candidates get to put in their information, and then voters can go to Vote 411 and look at the statements that the different candidates have made. And it worked. And so, but that is the only time I'm aware that we did something like that for town meeting recently. Yeah.
And so for you, Sonja, you've been involved in this work for a little while. What are you thinking about at this time? What gives you hope? What gives you encouragement?
What gives me hope is that people still want to register to vote. People want to participate. And I think that's what gives me hope, the fact that people are still interested in government and interested in what's happening in their lives in terms of what the government can or cannot do for them. So that gives me hope. I am concerned about some of these efforts to limit voting. There's the SAVE Act, which is before Congress, which is similar to the executive order, which of course has no teeth in it at all because the president does not control the elections. Elections are controlled. But that concerns me because requirements in that would tend to disenfranchise a lot of people. First of all, having to re-register in and of itself, is not, very few states are as easy for voter registration as Vermont. You know, so that's number one. This idea that you would have to prove your citizenship and the indication that people whose names have changed since their birth certificate might have trouble.
Yeah.
And it just seems to want to, and attempts to limit mail-in voting, which our state is very strong for. Both parties have always been very strong supporters of that.
Yeah.
And
Certainly
also the same-day registration. I mean, in Vermont, we live in a state where everybody wants people to have a chance to vote.
Yeah. Well, is there anything more that you want to share with folks? I mean, this sounds like the SAVE Act, and you are probably involved in encouraging the legislative delegation in Vermont to vote against that.
Yes, they are. They have expressed, you know, that they're not in favor of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you know, if you join the league is going to court around the country to challenge these attempts to limit access to voting. And so when you join the league, your membership dues goes to help support their legal actions. And so if you're concerned about what's happening around the country, I would strongly urge you to join the league.
Yeah.
And once you're a member, you'll also get information about all of the things that are happening at the national level.
Yeah, and maybe we can just bring up that website one more time. That's at www.lwvofvt, League of Women Voters Vermont. And this is where you can see some important upcoming dates, a fun picture of everybody. It looks like in Washington, D.C., folks from Vermont coming together.
The other thing, too, is that we have something called the e-news.
Okay.
And you don't have to be a member to be on the list for the e-news.
And that might be under the latest news there. Great.
So
you can get some information, and then certainly we'll be partnering with you around recording and sharing those election forums in the upcoming year. We're excited about this being a good, be an interesting year for local democracy.
yes, and we've always been good partners on that issue.
Yeah. Sonja, is there anything more that you want to share with folks before we close out?
Just exercise your rights as citizens.
Great. Yeah. Thank you all for watching cctv.org. We're here with Sonja Schuyler from the League of Women Voters Vermont. And for more programming like this, you can tune into our website, cctv.org, or watch us on YouTube /Town Meeting TV. Take care and be well.